Okay, y'all. So this is part 2 of Daniel. I have read through 4 through 6 and it gets good. I mean, it was already good, but it gets better. So, starting in chapter 4, it starts with King Nebuchadnezzar. Like I said, he's a very prideful king. He's talking about himself to everyone. He's saying, I had another dream. It was about a tree, and this is what happened with the tree and whatnot. Okay. Now, at this time, he already knows who Daniel is. So, Daniel goes and interprets this dream. And Daniel says, oh, I mean, this isn't like a good one for you. This is actually meaning that you are the tree and you're going to be cut down. They're going to send you to the wilderness. And that's exactly what happens immediately after Daniel interprets this dream. So once they send King Nebuchadnezzar to the wilderness, he experiences God. Basically he goes crazy and he experiences God. He comes back and he says, wow, God is actually God. Like, I'm not serving these other gods anymore. It is what it is. And that was pretty much the end of King Nebuchadnezzar's story. He basically praised God, and that's all we know. So after that, or during this time, of course, his son becomes king because King Nebuchadnezzar is in the wilderness. So as his son is king, he is having a party, right? So he's got all these people there. He's got his concubines. He's got his wives, and they're drinking. And he tells someone, "Hey, go get those cups that we got from the temple of God in Jerusalem, and we'll drink from them. We'll drink wine from them." So as they're doing this, they're also praising these statues of gold and silver and bronze and everything. They're idols, right? They're praising idols. And as they're doing this, fingers appear. I kid you not. This is literally Bible. You see it here in verse 5. Suddenly the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall near the lampstand in the royal palace. The king watched the hand as it wrote. His face turned pale. He was frightened. His legs became weak and his knees were knocking. I mean, that would have happened to me too. I would have been terrified. So history repeats itself, right? He does the exact same thing that his dad did. He summoned the enchanters, astrologers, diviners, and he asked the wise men of Babylon, like, hey, what does this mean? If you tell me, I'll give you all these great things. I mean, he didn't say that I'll cut you to pieces if you don't tell me. He was a little different from his dad. He basically said, hey, I'll give you all of these prizes, So, of course, nobody was able to say like what was written on the wall. They didn't understand. It was God's writing, right? So they brought Daniel because one of the king's wives ran in and was like, hey, there's this man, Daniel. Daniel actually interpreted your father's dreams and you need to go get him. So he did. He went to go get Daniel. When he got Daniel, Daniel was like, he said, okay, it says, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. I don't know if that's how you actually say it, but that's what it said, okay? And so he interprets that Mene means, and I don't speak Hebrew. I don't know how to pronounce these sounds, so bear with me. It says, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel is, you have been weighed on the scales and been found wanting. Perez is, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. So he's basically saying, like, your days are over. I'm splitting up your kingdom and it ain't yours anymore. So immediately after that, he was slain that night. The king is gone. Okay. Then we get to Daniel in the lion's den. Now, this is a story that a lot of us know. We were pretty much told this when we were kids. For those of us that went to church, at least. And basically, King Darius appointed 120 satraps, I believe that's how you pronounce that word, to rule the kingdom. Okay. And now Daniel is still around, obviously. And these satraps were like jealous of him. They didn't like how much of an amazing person he was. They could feel God's presence in him. He was obviously a servant of God. We've seen that time and time again, and we're only in chapter 6. And they couldn't find anything wrong with him. They actually they were after him. They were trying to find something wrong with him so they can throw him under the bus and just get rid of him, right? They couldn't find anything. So what they did was they said, okay, he doesn't have any weaknesses. Let's go ahead and use his strength. His strength is that he likes to serve God. So let's use that and tell the king that anybody who serves or worships any other God other than you, king, will have to go into the lion's den. And that's exactly what the king did. So the king said, okay, let's just do it. And so when Daniel found this out, the first thing he did was pray, of course. And of course, they knew he was going to pray. And when he prayed, they went and found him praying and worshiping God. And then they went to go tell the king. They turned him in, and the king put him in the lion's den. Now, we've seen time and time again throughout these chapters that God protects Daniel. He may be put in some crazy situations, not by God, but by people and by the evil ones of the world. But God, time and time again, comes through, okay? So Daniel's thrown in this den. He's there with these lions. And while that happens, the king can't sleep. He can't eat. He doesn't want any entertainment. I mean, he is going through it. So the next morning, he runs basically to this lion's den. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you still alive. Did your God save you? And Daniel was like, yeah, may the king live forever. My God sent his, that's how they address the king. But he said, my God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions, and they have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I done anything wrong before you, your majesty. And so the king was happy. He's happy because he's like, oh, I realize that God is out for you. He is the all-powerful God, and I do not want to play with him. So I'm so happy that you are still alive, because Lord knows what would have happened if you were dead. And that would have been on the king, obviously. So after that, he proclaims, just like the other kings, he proclaims that the God of Daniel is the living God. He endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never. Basically, he's praising God now, all because of Daniel's obedience. That was good. Chapters 1-6, very good. Now it seems like in chapter 7, which I'll be reading at another time, is getting into Daniel's visions. And this is when we start to learn more about the end times. So stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned.